All right, we've got a little bit quieter background,
Absolutely.
and it's not quite as windy, and we're inside at the convention center. So you were talking about that experience with the Great Lakes flight.
Yeah, yeah. To pick up where the craft broke south,
Mm-hmm.
I watched it on the scope,
Mm-hmm.
flying along with the aircraft for about 5 minutes. It had already been with them for about 10, and the pilot contacted the FAA and said it has broken to the south and is departing. And I looked on the scope, and I had eight paints on it, which were 8 sweeps, and the craft was diminishing, and it was strictly raw radar. There was no signature on it for electronics, and so it was going down into the lake. It appeared to me.
Yeah.
It may have climbed out, but I think it went down into the lake, and it was just a blip,
Yeah.
but it was there, and it scared the people to death. The intel guy from downstairs came up, a captain, and he sat around with me and had me run through it with him. And we called down to the FAA, found out who the controllers were, found out when the ETA was of the aircraft going into Winnipeg,
Yeah.
and he called up the intelligence officer at a missile site north of Winnipeg, a Canadian missile site, and they had their people go down there, and I say interrogate. They wanted to talk to them, and so when they came off the plane, they escorted them into a big room, and they sat down and got interrogated,
Yeah. Wow.
and it was pretty interesting. And then he turned to me and he said, "Good job, Airman Knox." And I said, "Well, you're welcome."
Yeah.
It was fun.
And what year was that again?
1967,
67.
in either the late spring or early summer.
Now, something that you've talked to me about, of course, a lot of it's out there in popular culture, is abduction.
Yeah.
And what are your thoughts? Of course, you talked to me about some personal experiences. I guess let's start here. Let's start on this. A lot of people can be very skeptical
Yeah.
about abductions. Why do you think people would be skeptical?
2 or 3 reasons, but the most outstanding one, the one that strikes me, is they really don't want to talk about it because it flies in the face of the belief system, or it scares them. Another reason is that they listen to the government that says it's not true, and they want to believe the government. They don't think the government will lie to them.
Yeah.
And my experience is that it's absolutely real.
Yeah.
My
Now,
background says that it's not something you believe, it's something you know.
now tell me one experience that you've had.
Did I talk about the abduction? Okay. This is interesting. I was sitting in a blind last December. It was cold. I have a heater in my blind. I stay warm, and I wait for the deer to come to me. And I've been very successful because I've got them patterned. But I was sitting there, and I turned around and looked to my south, and about 30 yards from me, standing across this break between the woods and the marsh, there were 2, and possibly a third. I wasn't sure if I saw it, but the 2 I saw were standing there watching. They were about 10 feet apart. They were about 2.5 feet tall. They weren't big. They weren't grays. Their skin tone was very, very white, almost ghostly. And there was a kind of a glow to them. That it was an afternoon experience, and it was cold, and it was a little bit cloudy, not a lot of sun, and they were just standing there looking at me. And I was real tempted to walk over there. Now, they had clothes on. They were not like the Greys. And they had ears that kind of stuck up like an elf. Their faces were kind of nondescript, kind of plain, but they looked kind of chubbier than a Gray. Gray's a little bit skeletal. These things weren't skeletal. And they stood there and watched for maybe an hour while I was waiting to shoot a deer. Well, the funny thing is, within about a month, I had another trail camera right next to where that was, and it was taking pictures about 30 or 40 feet to the left of me. They were here, and the pictures were being over here. And on my computer, or on my trail camera, there were two very small creatures standing probably 30 or 40 yards away in the little swampy field. And next to them was a silver craft on the ground. And it wasn't big. It was fairly small. It was silver, and it was V-shaped. And it had a very small bulge on the front, or toward the middle of it where they sat. However, what was more confusing is that off to the right, out in the middle of the bigger field, there was a humanoid walking. And it looked like a human man, but the clothes were different. I went back and I looked at those pictures last night on my computer. There were also two other humanoids, and they had hold of a smaller ape-type creature between them, and they were leading it. They came toward the camera, and then they went away from the camera, and as they approached the woods, it was as if they stepped up onto a platform, and then it became a pink light, and it just kind of rose up into the trees. And that was I had that happening on 2 or 3 different pictures over a few seconds.
Yeah.
I thought they were humans trying to pull off something. They weren't humans. They were some sort of humanoid, and I didn't meet them, but I got their pictures on those trail cameras.
Yeah.